All right. The we had a well, first of all, I've got Mark Reid here today, so we actually had another intro that we were working on just to tease Mark Reid a little bit, and
Okay.
let's play this one too. I know you've seen the thumbnails and stuff, but this is something even better. Here we go.
He is a man of action. He is a man of duty. He is a man of honor. Here comes Mark Reid.
Okay. All right. Yeah.
We've got the American flag in the back of that one, which probably.
I know. It's weird. And you spelled honor wrong. Like, seriously,
Oh.
What are you doing? There's the U in honor. How dare you?
Like I said, it was an in-work thing. Look,
Okay,
Jess is in the comments apologizing. I've embarrassed
No,
him.
it's okay. It's just, it's kind of weird.
Yeah, well, we were just having fun. We were just playing with it.
Yeah, no worries.
Jess
than the flag.
Yeah. Jess gets into like, we'll be making something for a show or whatever, and she'll get into just messing around and playing and stuff, and she'll be like, look, I did this, and she showed me that, and I didn't tell her I was going to show it, so
Okay.
But yeah, thanks for coming, Mark, and obviously some of you know we're coming at a later time. Mark is literally on the other side of the world, so we have to.
I am, yeah.
Well, Mark's starting his day. It's morning time there, and 9 p.m. at night here. So,
yeah.
Anyway,
and I was really looking forward to this. I really, it was something that I really wanted to do. I love the idea of a call-in show. I love the idea of talking to people. So yeah, I really was looking forward to this. I think it's awesome.
Yeah. Didn't mean to do that. Sorry.
It happens, occasionally these things just pop off, if it lasts any more than an hour, do see a doctor. It's fine.
Yeah. Well, I've had some problems with the call-in feature and getting it to work right. And even when I get it set up correctly, my computer drags, which is causing it to echo and do weird things. And so what I'll do tonight, and I'll announce this several times throughout the show so anyone coming in knows, but if you're out there and you wish to have a conversation about some aspect of what we're talking about or something else you want to just ask, I will give you a link to come on the stream. You don't have to come on video. You can do audio only. But there's no number to call tonight. So people are welcome to stop in. If you want a link, just tell me you have something to say or whatever, and I'll post a link. I don't really want to pin one in the chat because that causes problems sometimes. Blessed be he may. Blessed be he is not blocked here, actually. I got some kind of weird message from Blessed be he saying, unblock me, which she put as a comment on one of my videos, and it's like, clearly you're not blocked. Like, you have been blocked a few times because of your behavior, but not right now. So what have you been up to, Mark? What's been going on? Like, we talk every now and then, but usually in passing.
Yeah, well, I've just been trying to do my weekly shows. I've been applying for volunteer work. I sort of applied to volunteer work at Recovering from Religion, which is a really wonderful charity organization. So I'm sort of going through training of that, and I really want to try to plug them as a really kind and caring organization. I might hate, I might hate it, but I'm giving it a try. Just a few hours a month or whatever I can give them of my time. I was looking for some sort of charitable work to do. So that was good. Apart from that, not a lot really, just the usual grind basically. Yeah.
Who's doing your training at RFR, if you don't mind for me asking?
Tanya started it off, and then I think she passed over to Sal to do it.
Yeah, right on. Yeah, Tanya did my first interview there. Well, actually, Anthony Magnabosco did my first interview over the phone.
Mm-hmm.
And then Tanya did the second part. And then I'm still doing training stuff too. I haven't finished it either, but I actually signed up to do that quite some time ago, and I've been kind of back and forth getting somebody who's available to do it or whatever. And it's been a process, but good for you. Recovering from religion is an awesome resource for people who want to talk about those things. And I believe is linked in every video I put out in the description. So yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
I agree with you.
I was actually inspired by Jess talking about her work there. So she's been a bit of an inspiration, sort of talking and also just meeting people who have deep trauma from their experience. And there's so many, naming them all would take forever, but so many people that have had sort of a traumatic experience through religion that are coming out and trying to become free in their lives and free from this very damaging mental structure of, I've got to control all of these natural things or else, I'm going to be punished for it in some other life. It's so damaging. And maybe I can make a tiny bit of difference and sort of, I like their attitude towards it, which is sort of just helping people get to a better life. And we can kind of all make improvements in our life and all make improvements in how we think about things. There are things that we all have fears about that are probably irrational, and we can sort of try to address them. Well, let's be here. Why don't you come on and ask?
You want to come on and ask that question? You can do it audio only. You don't have to be on. It just be like a call in if you want to do it. We can have that conversation. It's too hard to argue through the chat, really. You end up waiting on each other. But you can ask a question there and we'll answer it. But you may get a better conversation. Coming on.
And a lot of people think they've only seen my debates and they think that I'm very nasty and can be very mean to people, and that's not the case. Like, I'm not really a nasty person. Like all the atheists that know me know that I'm not really that nasty. I think that having a discussion with somebody and having a debate with somebody are two totally different things. Like, a debate, you're supposed to be putting ideas up against one another. With a discussion, I more take a, sort of more lenient approach. But if people are being pushy in a discussion, I will push back. I think that reciprocity as far as attitudes go is perfectly reasonable. So if someone is being nasty, I can reciprocate, but I try not to. We're all human. We all sort of, get, we all want to defend why we believe what we believe. But I think that sort of being able to have a back and forth conversation rather than just one person asking questions of another is really the way to go, because then you get to investigate each other's worldview and you get to investigate, what this means and what that means and why they came to that conclusion. There's, I really dislike sort of the Darth Dawkins thing of, I only ask questions, and it's like, well, then you're not really having a conversation, are you? How confident is Mark that his atheism is true, and what evidence does he have that no gods exist? So atheism, it's slightly misworded, blessed be he, just to start off with, because atheism is a belief it's a rejection of a proposition. It's basically a lack of belief in God. So how confident am I that I lack a belief in God? Very confident that I lack a belief in God. I know that's not what you're asking. But atheism being a belief system, it's not really true or false. It's like theism isn't really true or false. It's Christianity, the actual structure itself is true or false. But I'm sort of nitpicking a bit. I'm very confident. I have the same level of confidence that a God does not exist, that Santa does not exist, or Bigfoot doesn't exist, right? Or fairies don't exist. I have the same level of confidence as that. I refrain from giving absolutes. I don't like giving absolute knowledge claims like, oh, I am 100% certain kind of thing. But I'm as certain as I can be of anything in this world, really. So I would probably say on a scale to 100, probably about 95 to 98%, I would say, because it is a big universe out there. I could be wrong. What evidence do I have that no gods exist? Well, atheism doesn't necessarily need evidence of something not existing. I could propose a invisible dragon, as per Carl Sagan, in my garage, and then ask you to provide the evidence that that doesn't exist. It doesn't really make sense, does it? Because, if you basically said, hey, you've got to come up with evidence or something exists, a lot of things would exist. Like, how do you find evidence that Bigfoot does not, in fact, exist? But right. I will say, to be fair, I will say that basically all presentations of God made to me, any God at all, like without getting into the specific gods, because there's certain things, evidence that, say, for instance, the triomni God, it's logically impossible due to the problem of evil and, problems with omnipotence. There's some logical problems there. But any God that's always been presented as an agent, something with a mind capable of making decisions, making taking actions based upon that. Now, every single presentation we've ever had of any kind of mind has needed a physical vessel to carry it, either a brain or a nervous system or something in the material world to carry it. So, and we've got billions of examples of this, whereas something without a brain doesn't have a mind. And indeed, it seems like the more complicated the brain, the more complicated the mind. So the more the structure is neurologically complicated, the more it is able to make cognitive functions or have this mind feature to it. So it doesn't necessarily mean that a God definitely doesn't exist, but I think that's strong evidence when we have these billions of examples of needing a mind, needing a brain, or some sort of brain to have a mind, that you're saying, hey, there's a mind without a brain. I think the evidence shows that you do need a brain to have one. It's kind of similar, and I've used this analogy in debates in the past. If you say, well, how are children born? What's the evidence that they're not brought by stork, right? And I say, well, we've had billions of births happen, and all of them have been a natural process of cells growing within a womb. None of them have been sort of, a stork bringing them. You could say, hey, you haven't seen every birth. How do you know a stork didn't, how do you know this exception does not exist? Well, you don't with 100% confidence. And that's why I don't give 100% confidence. But after billions of examples, you can be really confident that the natural processes that you're observing are, in fact, what either make a baby or form a mind. So that's why.
Good answer.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that this is one of those loaded questions, right? It's like, what evidence that no gods exist? You have to be specific, first of all, about what God you're proposing to exist in this situation, because no gods is God. It means gods we haven't even thought of yet. Like that's so it's a weird question to put that way. I agree. Atheism is true. I don't think atheism is a truth question. I don't think it's a the positive assertion that a God exists would be a true false question. The rejection of this God and that God and any God that you heard of so far isn't necessarily a truth question. It's just, I'm not convinced that what you propose is true. That's the easiest way that I try to explain it. But yeah, I think that's such a weird question. I get asked this all the time too. So I'm sure you've been asked that same question before too.
Oh yeah, yeah, absolutely. It is kind of shifting the burden of proof, though.
Yeah, yeah. Be he with a hold on, got a second question here. Do you think agnostics and weak atheists are valid positions? Why can't you just say, I don't know?
Oh, I think they're absolutely valid positions. I mean, I hold the same position as they do and then take one step further. I think it's just my confidence level is higher. Essentially, you should always reject things that you don't have evidence for until you have evidence for them. Because the opposite way round of believing things you don't have evidence for until you have evidence that they don't exist is a terrible way to evaluate anything.
Yes.
It's sort of, if I say, hey, I've seen Bigfoot, you'd have to believe me if you're intellectually consistent. Because if you're saying, well, where's the evidence against it? You can't get evidence that I haven't seen Bigfoot. Like you just can't come up with that. It goes into sort of the philosophy of science and Karl Popper in general, where we're talking about sort of attributing confidence to the amount of evidence that we have. But that doesn't mean that if you don't have any evidence, you believe it until evidence comes along against it. We want the default position to be don't believe it until you actually have evidence. Because, but I think that what I'm relying on, is sort of a, and you're right, you really have to start talking about the God that you're suggesting, but I'm sort of relying on sort of induction, repeat occurrences that say, hey, a mind needs a brain, just in the same way that repeat occurrences of a Nigerian prince probably says that it's not real, even though if somebody sends me an email saying, hey, I'm a Nigerian prince, I can't come up with evidence that they're not a Nigerian prince, right? I can't do that, but it's best not to believe it until you have evidence that that is actually true, not the other way around.
Right.
But yeah, they're valid positions. Absolutely. If, people want to say, hey, I just reject that God claim, and that's absolutely valid. Some people will sort of not sort of say, hey, I think that you're sort of taking too hard a stance with sort of just this inductive argument. And I'd say, no, that's totally fair. I get that some people don't want to take that step. But I would take that step. I think that, and especially if you get into individual gods, you'll find that atheists will take that step. They'll say, hey, the Yahweh character is definitely a man-made character. Absolutely.
I agree.
We have where it was created in a pantheon and then sort of, melded into one. And then, we know that that's sort of a man-made character. So when you start talking about the Christian God or the Judaic God or the Islamic Allah, most atheists will actually take the hard position for that.
Yeah, that's my thing, because whenever you talk about Yahweh, I can give you good reasons to not believe that the Yahweh character as described in its only source, the Bible, is not real. But again, you need a specific God. And I go a step further, and I don't speak for Mark here, but I say not only is there no evidence that a God exists, there's not only no good reason to believe a God exists, there's plenty of reasons not to believe that. And that gets into other things. And again, that's my position, not necessarily Mark's. Let's see. Catholic traditionalists, where's the link to join your live stream so I may obliterate your atheistic worldview? Well, it just happens you came to the right stream tonight.
Yep, sure did.
Catholic traditionalists, check out the chat.
You might want to pin it as well if you throw it in there.
I will.
There you go.
I will. We'll give you a second to
yeah.
To join
relax,
here.
get ready.
Yeah. You've been asking for this from apparently not just one atheist channel. You've been busy. Which is fun. Uh-oh. Sorry, I had to go to the
Atheists think love and emotions come from chemical processes. Well, it's not just chemical processes. We know that memories and thought and our senses also influence them. There's been a lot of work done on how our emotions. I was talking to Christopher Mowdy, who's a psychologist that deals with olfactory triggers. It's incredible how much our emotions and our feelings are affected by your olfactory senses. Like, cookies will bring up memories of childhood, which then in turn will trigger other things. It's not just like when you say just chemicals, or I think that's what you said, just chemicals or just things. It's not just. It is part of it, but it's a feedback, sensory and mental and memory thing that there's so much going on. Just sort of minimizing it to chemicals is not right, because there's also things like the memories of things. Like, we know that when we have some of these memories, especially of trauma, it's like people are living it for the first time. It's like they're going through it again. Their thought processes and their brain activity is essentially the same. So I think you're really minimizing it there, and I think that's a bit of a straw man, blessed be he, that's sort of saying it's just chemicals. No, it's a whole wide range of things. And, if you don't think that the senses can play a part in, and memories can play a part in sort of your emotions and your mental states, well, to quote the young kids, you need to go out and touch grass.
Perfect. Yeah. This is I'm gonna bot on this for just a second. How do you explain qualia?
No, I thought you were biting on it.
Oh, no. I was just letting them ask the question. I was giving you first shot at it. Would you like me to answer first?
If you want, I'd feel like I've been talking way too much. So
well, it's I want to let you answer things. But so qualia, or your experience of things, is again just we. Yeah, just 1 second. I'll add you on. Our experience of things is based on a number of things, but yes, I would still say it's a chemical reaction, and that qualia is a product of a mind going through those chemical reactions. What you experience is completely based on that, and we also find that how you experience things is there's a cultural implication there as well that changes how one person may view things differently. So I don't know that it really matters, but Catholic traditionalists didn't pop in yet, but Pariah Dice did. What's up?
What's going on, boys? Joe, Mark, nice to see y'all.
Yeah, good to see you too. How you doing?
I hope my audio is not too bad. I'm doing a walk and saw that your live stream was starting as I started my walk, so hopefully that's not a problem.
No, you're fine.
No.
Perfect. So I identify as an atheist. So what I would like to see as an argument from the hard atheist perspective, postulated against the any theistic belief, is whether or not a belief in the idea of a God is contingent upon humanity existing.
Okay.
An argument that a God is contingent on humanity existing. Is that what you're asking for? So basically, you're asking for an argument that identifies God as a mental construct of humans.
Okay, well, let me try to chop it down even a little more then. So my understanding of the position of a hard atheist is that there is no God. So in order to facilitate that position, I don't need to go under every rock in the universe to check and see if there is a God. All I need to do is deduce it down to the simplest terms. And my version of that is to say, is the belief, does it originate from a human being?
Okay, so the first problem is you're looking for a deductive argument. I'm not sure there is one for hard atheism. So do you know the difference between deductive and inductive processes?
Maybe you can educate me.
Okay. So deductive is when you're saying, hey, logically, this is the only option that follows, basically. So when you're taking away, hey, this person didn't do it, this person didn't do it, the only other last one can be this person, right? That's a deductive argument, right? So if you've got three people standing around there, the only ones that could have done something, you eliminate the other two, last one is left, that's deductive. Inductive is finding evidence to suggest something, like, so if you find someone left their DNA there, or somebody left their fingerprint there, that would be an inductive argument. You're finding clues to who did it, not based on eliminating others, but based on leading you to the actual answer. So
right.
So
that's how you convict somebody of a crime, right?
Exactly. Yes.
Okay.
Exactly. It may be a combination of the two. It may be, hey, we've eliminated all suspects. There's this person was the only person in the house, but we need more than that. We need to say, hey, there's this evidence that their fingerprint was on the weapon, or what have you. There's inductive, basically. I think I would present an inductive argument. I think I would say that any God concept that has been presented to me includes necessarily to be a mind. It has to be a mind in order to have agency, make decisions, have wants, have some kind of desires for things to be enacted. Really, inductively, I would sort of say, well, we've got a lot of instances of minds out there, from animal minds to human minds, tons of them, billions of them, in fact. It has always been the case that a mind needs a brain in order to be a mind. And when you damage the brain beyond repair, the mind doesn't work anymore. So that would lead me to believe inductively, if I've got billions of examples of a mind needing a brain, and somebody suggests, hey, there's a mind that doesn't have a brain, it's just an immaterial mind, I think I would say that that's an argument against it. Just as, if you sort of say, hey, I've got a car that can turn invisible and fly, my experience of cars says that that's not a thing. You would have to, at that point, demonstrate it. But I think it's an argument against it.
So you're saying that the affirmative concept of, from what I perceive as a fact, that there is not another extant species that promulgates this idea of a deity at all.
Well, no, it's that there is no other mind that we have ever observed that is immaterial, that has no brain, no material brain behind it.
And that's your inductive.
So that's inductive, yes. So it's repeat instances of something leading me to a conclusion of that is required, because every single other mind we have ever seen has required it. Having said that, if someone can show me a mind without a brain, at that point, I would give up hard atheism. I would say, hey, I'm definitely not a hard atheist. I'm definitely agnostic at that point, because if that can be shown, then I must open myself up to the possibility that there is a mind without a brain. But I've never been shown this. So I think that the billions of minds that have brains lead me to believe that minds need brains. That's my stance on it.
Yeah.
All right. Well, hey, Mark, thank you so much for your time and engaging. Joe, thanks for having me on. I see Catholic has just joined the channel, and I'm sure that he has a much more engaging argument for you guys. And I will continue to watch along, and I wish you all well.
Well, thank you so much for coming and asking your question.
Thanks.
All right,
I really
bud.
appreciate it, Ben.
Yeah. I don't know how to leave it.
Here. Okay.
There we go.
So I would also add to that we because I mean, I take the position that believers define their own God into existence, and that it is a man-made, construct or thought form or whatever you want to call it, down that rabbit hole of nonsense. But that, I mean, if I'm asserting that God is something that man created for X, and X, then of course I'm saying that then the God belief, at least the ones that we've discussed, so the Christian God and things, are contingent upon a human thinking it up. But you can't really go and say that, oh, it's only humans, and in every situation anywhere that it's going to be that way. So it's hard to really say that it can only be humans, because we don't know about life in other places and all of that. We don't know that there isn't another civilization out there that's created another God and called it whatever and all that. But I think that the gods that have been proposed by humanity, of course, are contingent upon a human brain. So anyway, that's all I'll say about it. Catholic traditionalists, you've been just dying to argue with some folks, and let me back the camera up so you can't see every pore of my skin. Ask your question, Catholic traditionalists.
Yeah, God doesn't exist because.
Okay, so
because you haven't shown him to exist.
Well,
sorry.
No,
I can't hear both of you at the same time. Could one of you speak at one time?
Yeah.
Well, first off, you're basically, are you looking for a logical argument against God, or you're looking for my epistemology against God? Because when you say, well, just a second, when you say God doesn't exist because, you're not asking, does God, do you believe God exists, or why don't you believe God exists? You're sort of saying, that's what it seems like you're saying, but I want to know what you're saying.
Yeah, I just want to hear the argument you have for your basis that there's not a God.
Well, God does not exist because minds need brains.
Okay. So have you ever seen a mind before?
Have I ever observed one? Yes.
Oh, you have? You've observed a mind? Can you post the mind? Can you post a picture of a mind in the...
yeah, sure.
Yeah, go ahead. Let's see the mind.
MRI scan of brain.
Well, no, that MRI scan is of a brain. I asked you for a picture of a mind.
I'll get MRI scans of brain waves going through.
No, brain waves, that's simply neurons firing. That's material things in a brain. I'm asking you for a mind.
So you think that the mind is not a product of a brain?
Well, the mind can be a product of the brain. I'm not arguing that it's not. But you're assuming that the mind itself exists solely from the material, right? Isn't that your basis?
Yes.
Okay. So what evidence is, if you're going to make that claim, you have to back it up with evidence. So can you post the evidence of a mind? If you post evidence of a brain, that's not posting evidence of a mind. You said you saw a mind. You told us you saw a mind. So let's see the mind.
Hold on. Let me answer. We know from studies that affecting the brain affects the mind. The mind is tied directly to the brain, even to the point of sort of split brain patients, that if you split their brain in half, their mind fragments into half, and it's two different minds that then exist, each that can have different opinions. I mean, split brain patients are absolutely fascinating, because basically you have two
Yeah, I'm
separate
not disagreeing
minds.
with you, but none of that answers the question that I'm posing.
Well, where does the mind come from if not the brain then?
Yeah, I've already agreed to your point. I've conceded
So you
your
agree
point that with
the
regard,
mind...
hold on, with regards to ourselves, yes, the mind is an expression of the brain, but you would agree that the mind itself has a being that is different from the brain, right?
Well,
I mean, you can't, the mind is not material, right?
Hold it. Let me answer. You're sort of jumping in as soon as I
Go ahead.
start there. So we can have a look at an MRI and tell.
That's not a mind. I'm asking you for a picture of a mind, not the brain.
Me. Could you please mute him? Because he's not going to let me talk. So
Yeah,
we
I'm
can
gonna
Mute me and I'll leave.
I don't care
Catholic,
if
you
leave.
can't just talk over people like this. Like, seriously. So we can take scans of the brain and see what mental state somebody is in, whether they are happy, whether they're sad. We can even get some base level pictures of what they're thinking of. Like, I don't know how you can argue that, oh, the mind emerges from the brain. We can take shots that show what the mind is doing and even mental images that come up, but that's not the mind. If there is a mind outside of a brain, you've got to show it. You've got to actually show this happening, because we can make some massive insights into what the brain is producing in the mind. I mean, why do you think that in order to sort of address mental issues, we have chemical drugs and things? Like, why do you think that is? We know what the mind is being, produced. It's being produced by the brain, which you agree to. But when we take images and we take observations of the brain producing this mind, you go, nope, that's not the mind. It's got nothing to do with it. Make your mind up.
Yeah, and I think it's really childish of you to go to multiple atheist channels saying, where's the link so I can come in and show you how stupid you are, and you won't let another person speak. This is the same reason you left last time you were on this channel, because you were asked to shut the hell up so somebody could answer your questions. So I mean, I was more than happy to have you come on and ask your question, but you're not going to speak over people and act like an asshole. I don't care if you leave. If you want to come have a conversation, come have a conversation. If you just want to wait for your chance to talk over people, then fucking kick rocks. That's how I feel about it. As to your question, though.
But you're basically saying, hey, a mind can exist without a brain, but I don't want to show it or demonstrate it or in any way address your burden of proof that for this ephemeral, brainless mind. Why don't you?
I think really because what he did there is he accepted that the mind can be a product of a brain, and I would say you're sitting here asking evidence for something that you already accept as true, which is kind of strange. But I think those brain waves are, again, they're a product of what's going on in the brain, which is the same thing a mind is. And you can actually show what they're thinking by different parts of the brain lighting up and stuff. And so I would say they are excellent evidence of a mind at work. But further than that, though, you accept that in humans anyway, the mind is a product of the brain. Then I need you to actually show me a case in which that is not. You're asserting that there can be a mind in this other supernatural way. Show that there's some reason to believe that that's the case, because you already accept the part of where the mind comes from in humans. I think that the question is kind of malformed in that way, but whatever, Atheists can't ground anything in reality. Actually, we ground everything in reality. It's the
and sort of so, and I just want to address this. Like, you've been beating your chest saying that you're going to demolish people, and then you come in here and sort of talk over the top of people. If you really had the arguments you claim to have, you wouldn't have to talk over people. You'd be able to let them finish and answer your questions. And Joe's right. You ask questions, and then as soon as somebody tries to answer them, you just talk over the top of them. It's really transparent that you don't, you have to go around telling people that you have this demolishing arguments, because you've got nothing except rudeness and sort of this hostile over talking of people that you won't let them answer. Yeah, I bet you win arguments when you don't let anybody answer them. I bet you do. But whatever helps you sleep at night.
If only I knew a guy that took part in moderated debates about subjects like this. If I could only find someone that was interested in doing those type of things.
Oh, does such a thing exist? Does such a thing exist?
Yeah. Yeah. So I'll put this out there to you, Catholic traditionalists. If you would like to have an actual conversations where both sides are allowed to put their thoughts out there for the audience and anybody that watches this to make up their minds for themselves, then I welcome you to engage in that with Mark, and I think Mark would probably debate you on the subject, but sure. Even if he's not willing to, I am. So
yeah, no, you can take it.
I mean, debates aren't really the thing that I really care about. Like every now and then there's something that comes up and I'm like, yeah, I would like to have that discussion. Kyle Adams was kind of a personal thing, but I don't care to do him. He was
actually pretty good.
He was awesome.
He was actually really good in that debate. He let you say your side, and that's the point. It's kind of these people that can't give a decent argument. They don't want to hear the other side. They'll just drown it out kind of thing. And the whole idea of, well, I've got to be able to ask you questions as well. I mean, we can get to it. I got the feeling he was like well, I'm not going to answer your questions. And as I said up front, we want a back and forth. We want to have a discussion. But yeah, I feel like Catholic traditionalist just isn't interested.
No, there's no. That's exactly the same thing that happened before. Whenever he was asked to let someone else speak and made to let someone else speak, he immediately just fucked off. So,
yeah,
you'll have that. But yeah, I mean, I can say for certain.
That's okay. Let's rile him up a bit. He just ran away. You coward.
You yellow bear. I can't even say it now. Never mind. It was going to be in Kentucky anyway, so most of you wouldn't have got it. But yeah, I mean, I can't stand the philosophy bros that want to just like blah, 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 blah. And then as soon as you're like, okay, let me answer your question, they're like, well, no, what about this? Well, no, what about this? Oh, you want me to stop? Well, I'll leave. Yeah, I mean, be willing to at least engage in the conversation rather than just coming in with this smug, I know I'm fucking right, and I'm going to show these atheists how stupid they are. Have a little bit of an open mind to actually listen to the conversation. And who knows, even if you're not willing to accept anything that challenges your position, you may still learn something anyway about the brain or about science or whatever. I mean, engage in those conversations. Don't be such a pussy. That wasn't nice.
Okay, I do have to say, look, blessed be he. I don't mind having a conversation, but please stop this forgotten stuff. We've been through this before. Like, I haven't forgotten anything. I wasn't raised in a religious household, so you're sort of, well, you've forgotten this. It has no effect on me whatsoever. I haven't forgotten anything. I wasn't raised in a religion in the first place, so it's not going to work on me because I don't have that latent and sort of the way you're trying to exploit people's latent religiosity in order to say, oh, well, you've just forgotten this thing. No, seriously, it's kind of, really, really childish. I brought something up, and since you're asking me questions, I brought something up about you saying, well, I don't think chemicals can produce a mind. Like, I don't think that can happen. You might as well say, and my point was, I don't think that copper and silicon can produce something capable of calculating pi, but it is. We have computers. In fact, the only reason we're talking right now, this is the thing about emergent properties. The silicon and the copper and the chemicals in your brain don't have the properties by themselves. It's when they're in the larger system that they have these emergent properties of being able to do these things. So, the copper and silicon and sort of, other metal, steel by themselves, plastic by themselves, does not give me the ability to talk to Joe, right? If I just put that in a lump, I can't talk to Joe. But it's the system working together that produces my ability to talk to Joe over the internet. So we've got to be careful about this reductionism, just saying, hey, but, chemicals don't, have this property. Not by themselves, no, but nobody's saying that the brain is just chemicals. And that's a sort of straw man by the religious. But the problem is that you then sort of go, well, you've forgotten this light, and stop that. Like, address what I've said. That there's a lot of things that by themselves, they don't have the properties of, say, having a mind. But when you put it with a whole bunch of other stuff, we start to see these things emerge. And here's the problem. Now you've gone to hydrogen, and it's kind of like, well, why can't you talk about what I've just said? Why do you have to skip off to something else? Like, why can't you say, well, maybe I'm minimizing the brain to just chemicals.
Right.
Or I still think the brain is just chemicals. I would disagree, but at least you'd still be on the same conversation.
All right. I'll let you.
Oh, boy. Yeah, so I know carbon has 6. I mean, stable carbon does. Not all carbon does have 6 electrons, 6 protons, and 6 neutrons. Not all of them do. You do get unstable carbon. But
famously, carbon-14.
Right. It decays because it's unstable. It has, I believe, 8 protons instead of 6, and so it's throwing some off and decaying kind of thing and turns into something else. I think that because carbon-12 is incredibly stable, right? It's incredibly stable, but there's other, like, we're just talking about, well, why does hydrogen have 1, and why does helium have 2? It's we have the elements are formed by the amount of protons that they have in their
the strong and weak
atom.
force. Yeah.
Right. So we have atoms with 4, 5, and 6. It's not like 7, 8, 9, 10. It's not like it's the only one that exists. It's just that one happens to have 6. And because of the arrangement of them, because it's got 6, it bonds really well with other atoms. So it's a very, very versatile and very useful element. But it's not like it's just, well, why does it have 6? Why does helium have 2? Why does hydrogen have 1? I don't. It's kind of this. Well, it's just that atoms have anywhere from 1 to tons. I don't know the upper limit of protons in an atom, but they have anywhere from 1 to a ton of them, and carbon just happens to be 6. I don't understand.
Yeah. Let me Behe, I see you've got another insert down there, but let me hit this one real quick. Yeah. $5 super chat from Occult Examiner, a questioner for Mark. Mm-hmm. Where do gifts like intuition and being psychic fit in with atheism, if at all? Great question, by the way.
Well, I think when you're asking what fits in with atheism, it's kind of everything except a god fits in with atheism, right? Because atheism isn't a worldview like, oh, we have to believe in science and not believe in Bigfoot and not believe in this and believe in that. It's just the rejection of the God claim. So you can be an atheist and believe in psychic phenomena all you want. Like, that's totally fine. Now, you can even reject science. You can believe in aliens. You can believe in Bigfoot. You can believe in psychics. You can believe in ghosts and still be an atheist, as long as you reject the God claim. As long as you say, I do not believe in any God, then you're still an atheist. It doesn't matter. Intuition, as far as I'm concerned, in my opinion, it's sort of a very quick, really emotively controlled response, thinking process. We categorize things into type 1 and type 2 thinking, whereas the mental processes behind type 1 thinking are very fast, and they don't, they're not really conscious, they're more subconscious, and they make decisions incredibly fast. So, for instance, your tendency to duck when something's incoming, or sort of get a feeling that something's wrong here, is sort of type 1 thinking, while type 2 is the slower and more methodical, sort of logical, dwelling on stuff, thinking about stuff, and making decisions. Now, intuition's incredibly important. It allows you to make decisions quickly, very quickly. Sometimes, in the blink of an eye kind of thing. You can sort of get something's wrong and make that decision very quickly. So I think intuition is incredibly important, although less so than it probably used to be in our evolutionary history. But it's nowhere near as precise as type 2 when you actually go and stop to think about things. I think that psychics don't fit into skepticism. Skepticism is the view that in order for things to be true, or in order for you to believe something, it's got to have demonstrable evidence for it. So I think psychic stuff doesn't fit in with skepticism at all. Yeah, well, occult examiner, you say that, but would you do it under controlled conditions, scientifically controlled conditions? Having control groups to test whether you're in fact accurate or not. Like, how do we know that your readings are not just intuitively making guesses about people?
And we could, in fact, set that up if you'd like to.
Sure.
We could actually have you come and do readings for several people separately, and then put those together and do a video about the results if you'd like, a called examiner. I know that's a whole big project, but just to show why maybe that we hold the stance that we do on that, we could do that if you're interested. I know that you're into some of that kind of stuff too, so I think
Sure.
that would really be a good way to look at it.
Yeah, but we'd have to control the circumstances, so we know that you're not getting information from somewhere else, that we know that it's not just intuitive guessing, and sort of, I'm sure Joe would be happy to set that up if you think that you can make these readings on people. We'd have to eliminate cold reading or reading of body language kind of thing, or things like that. And put it against random chance, someone without, maybe a few people, we get together, a few people without any kind of psychic powers, and see if they get the same results or similar results or better results. And if they do, that's our control. If they do, then all it is chance.
Yeah. More than willing to take a deep dive on that with you if you want it called examiner. We've worked together a couple times, and I've had nothing but a fantastic time doing that. So if you'd like to, let me know, and we sure will.
Yeah, as far as spiritual energy and stuff is concerned, I find it harder to take a hard position against that like I do. Because, when I said, hey, my main thing is inductive argument, saying, hey, minds always need brains kind of thing. And actually, something brings me up. It's sort of, when we say, I was very careful, because what Catholic traditionalists said was that he said, have you seen a mind? Right. And I've said, we've observed minds. Right. So I think he was taking that as, well, I've seen a mind, with my own two eyes and not through some kind of apparatus in order to measure it. It's kind of like, have you seen an atom? No, nobody's seen an atom or seen a quark, for instance. We have to use apparatus to observe them. So maybe that's where some of the confusion lie in retrospect. But I don't know why we would have to see something in order to observe it. Like we observe all kinds of things that we can't see. I can take a multimeter to an electrical circuit and I can observe the electricity through the multimeter, but I can't see it. What was this? Oh, it is 8 neutrons. Yeah, you're right. I think you muted, Joe.
So let me say all that all over again. Ember, yeah, if you rewind and watch that, you're not going to get that time back of your life. So that's up to you. I'm not going to be held responsible for that. But Behe also asked, are you a materialist or a physicalist?
I think I sort of take a soft position on the materialist. I think that the evidence leads me to believe that everything is material. However, I'm not the hard stance on that. I'm not sort of saying, hey, I know absolutely that no non-material things exist. I think that I don't, I will leave open the possibility that non-material things could possibly exist, but I'd have to have a demonstration of them in some way in order to believe that they're real. So I would consider myself a materialist, yes.
Yeah, I like whenever they throw around naturalist. I'm like, yeah. So we both agree that there are all these natural things are there. You're just asserting more than that. Let's talk about that.
Yeah.
And yeah. So I think that we get into these weird questions about like the mind and or the brain and things that are produced by the brain and like intuition or gut feeling and stuff like that. To me, I think that's like a really silly thing to bring up because intuition has been known to fail so many people all the time that it's like, okay, first of all, it's not valuable in taking a scientific look at the world around you. But there's times when you may have like that thought or that gut feeling of something and be right. And so we tend to remember the times that intuition was right and try to forget the times that it wasn't. And intuition is just guessing based on past experience, right? I mean, I think that's what intuition is simply anyway.
Sure. Yeah, I think there's definitely a large element of that, sort of the previous preconditioning of what you think. I think there is something to that. I think it's also complex. I think there's things that, so for instance, if you see a darkened alley and you sort of have a suspicion that there's someone lurking in the alley, you have that fear response. I think that's kind of, evolutionarily, it's been sort of programmed into us that we and things like pareidolia, where you think you can see a face where there is no face, kind of thing.
Right.
I think that's more than just memory. I think that is something that sort of we seem, and I hate to use this term, we seem hardwired to do, kind of thing, is lean towards these things.
Well, I think there's evolutionary value to it, and that
sure.
Because of that, you can say that we are hardwired. The intuition is what has made our species able to become as successful as it is. And also, let me remind you, humans, not the most successful species in the animal kingdom. We just happen to be at the top right now because of our intelligence level. But
what do you think is the most successful? Like, what do you think is the most successful?
I would say I don't know what I would say is the most successful, but I would say forms like dragonflies are very successful. They've been the same form for millions of years with very little change because they are fit to their environments and able to change with the ebbs and waves of those environments. We talked a whole thing with Dave from Captive Desk about horseshoe crabs, very, very successful species,
Cool.
which has changed over time, but has remained pretty much the same form for millions of years. So
yeah,
I think that there are some forms that have been really successful because their ability to take environmental changes and still be able to be fit, for that environment. So I would say some of the insects and things like that have been very successful. Ants are very successful. Yes.
Hang on, I just got to rile up some trouble in the chat.
Yeah. You're fine.
I want to float something. The most successful type of life. I'm not sure about species. I would probably sort of refrain from saying species. But I think that the most successful type of life has got to be bacteria, to the point where other species absolutely need bacteria in order to function. We have bacteria in our gut that we can't live without now. I think that the resilience of bacteria is astounding. We have bacteria in growing on the sides of nuclear reactors, and their DNA gets totaled by the radiation. It kind of scuttles back together. It's actually insane. Bacteria can survive in space. They can shut down and they reanimate when they get I think for me the most successful type of life is bacteria.
Yeah.
But yeah.
I think whenever, and I actually do agree with that. Probably maybe I didn't dig deep enough whenever you asked the question, but yeah, I would say bacteria are probably the most successful. I agree with you on that. One of the things that bacteria is able to do, though, is because of its ability to reproduce quickly, it's able to have populations that evolve quickly and adapt to the environment that it's in quickly, and adapt to things that are trying to kill it quickly, which it's an all-star at those things. So it's hung around for a long time, and it's actually one of the strongest evidences we have of actual speciation taking place, which would fall under macroevolution. Bacteria is very easy to observe doing that. It's why we have such successful antibacterial. What are they called? What's the stuff they give you? Penicillin is a what's the word?
That's a mold.
Right. No, but what do we use it for? What's the type of medicine?
Antibacterial, or
it's a oh shit now. Amoxicillin, penicillin, there's erythromycin. These are all examples of what kind of medicine? Antibiotics. Sorry.
Antibiotics, yeah.
Sorry, blooped out there for a minute. It's been a long weekend. No, Otangelo, we're not going to do that tonight.
Well, why not? As long as Otangelo's, allows me to answer and allows.
Come ask your question, Otangelo. It's there and you're here, so come ask it if you want.
Mm-hmm.
But I think that bacteria has not only been the most successful, but is one of the prime examples of things that we can look at and see both evolution in action and lots of other stuff. All right. You are on, Otangelo. Ask away.
Yes, hello, Joe. Hi, Mark.
Hi,
So,
Tangelo.
uh, so basically, we have here two competing worldviews. In one, there is a creator or an eternal, powerful, intelligent creator, and on the other side is not. So, if you propose that a creator is not necessary, then I think you should be able to come up with an alternative explanation which explains our existence in a more case adequate, consistent way. So, my question to you, Mark, would be how do you explain our existence without a creator?
Okay. So when you sort of say one's two conflicting worldviews, not in everything. I mean, I would assume that you think that the natural world does exist and you think that things happen naturally rather than some influence of a god. So I don't think everything is conflicting. I think that most things aren't, that most things are just naturally occurring, and then the miracles are the things where God intervenes. Would that be correct, Angelo?
Well, the issue is about origins, right? So we want
No,
to
no, no.
define
Answer the
an adequate.
question. Answer the
Well,
question, please.
Well, my point is, or my question is related to origins. So the physical natural world exists and demands an explanation. And there are two
Okay.
competing answers, one where there is a creator involved and the other not, right?
Okay.
So
So
if as an atheist
Mhm.
you propose that a creator is not necessary, this is my question. How do you explain our existence, the physical world, without a creator?
So this is a shifting of the burden of proof. So we basically both believe that the natural world exists. We agree on this, that the natural world does exist and that natural processes occur. You're suggesting something else beyond that, something that I don't see. You are suggesting that there is a God that has instigated and continues to instigate supernatural things that I don't see. You need to show that those things actually exist. Now, the alternative explanation behind a god is simply just natural processes. You sort of, I'm not sure what you mean by, why do we exist? Like, we can go into the scientific principles of Big Bang and, abiogenesis, evolution, all of these different things. But you're shifting the burden of proof to me to come up with an explanation. When you're proposing an explanation, you have to show that it's actually true before I believe it.
Yeah, I'm not coming here right now with the proposal. I want to know yours.
I don't care. You're still proposing it. As you said, there's two different worldviews. If I say natural processes, that's I think is the most likely. Can I say that 100%? No, I don't claim absolute knowledge like some people do. I don't claim absolute knowledge, but I think that natural processes explain things way better than supernatural magic.
So, are you trying to explain the natural world with natural mechanisms? That is a circular argument. We want to explain the natural physical world and existence.
What do you mean, like the natural world with natural processes? Like what other processes can you show? That's
What
not
we
a
want,
circular argument.
what we
What are
need,
you
what we
talking about?
need an explanation is about how the natural physical world came to be. Why is there
Okay.
the physical world rather than not?
So
You are
why
proposing that a creator is not necessary. So my question is, what is the proposed mechanism which you think best explains our existence?
No, I'm rejecting your claim that a creator is necessary. I'm not getting into sort of whether creator exists at all. You're coming to me and saying, hey, you don't believe in this creator, why not? And I'm saying to you, you have no evidence for this creator. And trying to say, hey, well, I proposed something, which you did at the start because you said that one has a creator and one does not. You're making the proposal. Whether you claim to, oh, well, I'm not saying that. Yeah, absolutely. That's the first thing that you said. You are the one making that proposal because I am simply making the proposal. We see the natural world around us. We can investigate it with our senses. If you're saying that there is something else, which you are doing because you said one worldview has a creator, you need to demonstrate that creator. And trying to make me demonstrate something, just say it doesn't exist, just say this creator doesn't exist. You trying to say, hey, show that that creator doesn't exist. You are shifting the burden of proof.
Well, I think that both sides do have the burden to back up their claim. I didn't come here to propose that God is the best explanation. I just said these are the two proposals on the table. I didn't come here as a theist. I just came here to say, I see that there in one worldview there is a creator and in the other not. If you are saying that a creator is not necessary, how do you back that up? You said, well, with the natural process, but the existence precisely of the natural world is what we want to explain. So again, if you think God is not necessary, what alternative do you present and why?
Well, it's not a dichotomy. It's not a true dichotomy, Otangelo, right? So if I say, hey, the Big Bang is the furthest we can look back, and that was a natural process, there's nothing supernatural about the Big Bang as far as we can tell. If you're suggesting there is, then by all means present this supernatural evidence. I'm more than happy to have a look at it. It depends what you mean by our world, or what you sort of said, how did the world come about, and whether you're talking about the earth or the universe. So you're being very unspecific in your language, the way that you just say, how did the world come about? Well, the earth came about by accretion disks of dust and other particulates with the effect of gravity upon it. If you're asking how humans came about, we can go into abiogenesis. I personally subscribe to amyloid world theory after I saw Grayson's video on it. It was very good. I highly recommend anybody watch it. Do I know that for sure? Absolutely not. Do I think it's the best explanation? Yes. But it's not a true dichotomy to say God or natural process or something else. How did you eliminate magic? So
I would say that it is a true dichotomy when I say either an intelligent, powerful, eternal creator was involved in creating the physical world, the natural world, and with this I mean everything physical, the universe, the laws of physics, and everything else, or not.
Yes.
This is a true dichotomy.
That's a true dichotomy. Yeah.
Okay, so if you say that this creator is not necessary, then I expect, in order to adhere to your explanation, that you actually demonstrate with good arguments why you think that the no-God world or the no-God hypothesis is superior in explanatory power of the origin of our existence.
Okay, because every time we've investigated the natural world around us and thought it was a God, it's been shown to be wrong. And this has happened billions upon billions of times when we've gone, okay, well, what's lightning? It was thrown by gods. We investigate, we actually do some study and research. It's not a god. We think that the Big Bang was God. No, it wasn't. There's nothing to suggest that. We don't know that's the case. It was lightning, storms, lava, volcanoes, earthquakes, geological movements, the way that animals behave, why people do what they do. Just about everything we have investigated thinking it's a god, it's turned out not to be. I do not see a reason after all of that to go, well, let's investigate the natural world, but we're going to assume it's a god until it's proven not to be. I think that that's a big mistake. So it is that inductive argument of us investigating time after time things purportedly done by gods that turn out to be natural processes. So I think that's why it's the best explanation. Does that mean I know for a fact that it wasn't God that did the Big Bang, for instance? No, I'm not claiming that. But I'm claiming that if you're proposing a God for these natural processes, you have to show that it is in fact the case.
Well, we need also to explain the natural processes itself. You cannot have natural processes without the universe. So you are saying that no agency, no creator is necessary, even for the existence of the universe. What is your explanation then for the existence of the universe?
Okay, so the cosmos usually refers to the universe and everything else that exists, right? So you could have multiple universes. I don't know that's true for sure, but you could have multiple universes within a larger cosmos. So the larger cosmos would still be subject to natural processes. It would still be a natural thing. There's no problem with that. And if there is a process within the greater cosmos, like, for instance, Sean Carroll describes parent and child universes, universes that are produced by universes, for instance, that would be a case of a natural process producing a universe. If what's his name, Lawrence Krauss is correct, and the quantum foam before time and before space, where he calls it nothing, develops into a universe, then that would still be a natural process. So no, natural processes aren't limited to our local presentation of the universe. That's just you asserting that.
I'm sorry, I need to be absent 5 minutes. Okay, so if you want, I can leave the stream, or you just wait. Up to you.
Yeah, I'll
just in the background. Yeah, that's fine.
We'll do this. And I do want to address what Totten's pointing out in the chat there. And Otangelo is actually blocked from this channel and is on an alt account using a public link. And I don't mind for Otangelo to ask a question.
Okay.
But we're not going to, well, we don't have to get into all that. But the back to the question at hand, though, the thing that sticks out to me about that question is that it seems that you want to say, well, how does natural processes explain the creation of the universe better than or when you're given the choice of a creator? And it's like, well, that creator that you're putting forward, we don't have any reason to pose that as a hypothesis, because no one's ever shown that to be likely, possible. There's no reason to assert that a creator did it in any way. There's no evidence that any such thing exists. So why would we put that on the same playing field as natural processes, which we have seen to be responsible for everything we observe in the universe? It just seems like to me the two things are not even the same question.
Well, I think I know where he's going with this, and it's kind of sort of trying to he's making a false dichotomy between natural processes and God. So, for instance, if I can come up with something else, because I think that the argument being made is the only explanation can be God, and that's not true. So you actually have to eliminate anything that could create a universe from any imagination. Like, for instance, if I have the Blarney Stone, which is a magical stone with no will, so it's not a god, it's not an agent, but it has the power to create universes and does so spontaneously for magical reasons. Then that, how did you eliminate that to get to a god? Like, how yeah. So, and
that's the problem, because if we're going to allow to pose these things that are supported by nothing other than, your belief in a God, if we're going to just propose everything that you can throw at it against something that there's, does seem to be the case given the observations made of the universe around us, then we have to take into account, what about magic? What about unicorn farts? What about, like all those other random things that have no basis in reality? So I think it's weird how it's always like, well, it's a precept question. I understand. I get that. Like, but how, I don't understand how even the preceptor looks at that and says, they don't believe in my God, so I'm going to ask them how materialism is a better explanation. I think anything is a better explanation for something I don't believe to exist. You could say the Kool-Aid Man did it. I mean, like,
yeah, and but I don't mind them asking why it's a better explanation. Why is a natural process a better explanation than a miracle?
that's a different question. Right? Yeah.
Sure, but it's a good question. Why do we think that natural processes are better? And I think it's because when we investigate, it's always natural processes. What gets me and what I'm not following is the way that he says, well, it's a circular argument because you're saying that natural processes cause natural processes. And it's like, well, yeah, we see that all the time. You know, like I'm really baffled by that because it's sort of like, well, we fire a neutron at a atom and we create an explosion. It's all natural processes. So we see natural processes called natural processes all the time. It's not a circular argument. It's just what we see every day. You know, I digest things, I take a dump. It's a natural process causing a natural process. It's not a circular argument. I'm so baffled as to why. It's almost like he's saying, well, I want to know what it is, but it can't be natural processes for arbitrary reasons. You know.
Right. Yeah. I think that's probably, well, that's because it's the burden shifting that makes it seem that way, because it's
right.
Yeah. And I don't like when you ask those questions, why is it a creator rather than natural processes? My immediate thought is, well, a creator isn't even a possible question of it, really. I mean, like, or it's a possible question, but it's not anything that you can reasonably assert is the case. Like, there's no reason to assert that is the case, other than, Christianity has like a single source. They have books that say they're all true, which they can't all be true. But they can't all be false. And like, you get into this whole thing about like, is there any reason to even pose that as a hypothesis? And I can't find one.
Well, it seems almost like a sort of argument to incredulity. To basically, I can't believe that natural processes could have caused this, therefore it's got to be a god. You could have the same argument applied in ancient Greek times to lightning or earthquakes or whatever the natural phenomenon was that they didn't understand. That sort of, lightning can't be natural processes because look at all the harm it does. Look at this. Look at how significant it is. And so it has to be Zeus or it has to be Thor kind of thing. So I think he's doing the same thing, just on a much, much larger scale.
Yeah, I agree with you.
Someone in ancient Greece could say, if Zeus doesn't throw lightning bolts, you've got to come up with a better explanation.
Right.
That's basically what he's doing.
Yeah. I liked Titan's response. The universe was created by and is ruled by the invisible pink unicorn. We know she's invisible because we can't see her, and we have faith she is pink. Yeah, I love that response, Titan. Let me get back here.
It's a bit more nuanced than that. It's sort of like, if the universe wasn't created and ruled by the invisible pink unicorn, you've got to give a better explanation to what how the universe came into existence. That's basically the same argument.
Did you have another one, Otangelo, or a response?
Well, to the origin of the universe, there are two basic possibilities if you reject a creator. One would be that the universe popped out out of absolutely nothing. That would be one. And the second, that the universe always existed.
Yeah.
Okay. So there's a lot to go. That's a very short statement, but there's a lot to go into that. That isn't a true dichotomy.
No.
You can also have
I'm not saying this is a true dichotomy.
Okay.
I'm just saying that.
No. Angelo, please don't interrupt me. Angelo, I was talking, and I was talking. Please don't interrupt me, because you said the only two possibilities if you eliminate a creator are these two possibilities. So you may not have said those words, but you're framing it as a true dichotomy. So don't sort of say that you weren't. So it could be a cyclical universe. The end of the universe creates the start of the universe in a cyclical time space. I'm not saying that's the case. I'm saying we don't know, right? it could be, and by eternal, I dislike that word because that sort of suggests like unending time. And so if you go back to the start of the universe, the Big Bang appears to be the origin of space-time, of space and time. So sort of saying before the Big Bang may be a really nonsensical thing to say. You're sort of saying before time. So a better way to describe the universe before time, if that even makes any sense, or when time was not present, is atemporal. So it's not eternal as in it keeps going endlessly. It's just that it has no time to run. So it doesn't exist eternally. Like you've got to stop thinking of time as this linear, always the same flowing thing. It's relative and it's a function of space. So I'm not sure what you mean by absolute nothing because no one's proposed the universe came from absolute nothing. Lawrence Krauss sort of described nothing as no matter or energy, but there was still quantum foam. So he didn't describe absolute nothing. So I'm not sure what you mean by that. So yeah, there's a lot in there, and sort of so these two options are not the case.
Well, I would say that these are the two possible alternatives if you think that God isn't the best explanation. One would be, I'm not saying that this or the other is the case. I am just outlining here that, as far as I understand, these are the two possible alternatives. One that absolutely nothing then suddenly made something happen and the universe would be the fact. And the second would be that the universe, in one way or the other, cyclical universes, multiverses, bubble universes, or whatever alternative you want to give, it all goes into the bucket that universe always existed. And then the question would be, how would you back up that claim as plausible?
Okay, so no, it doesn't. So parent and child universes, bubble universes, they don't go into the bucket of universes always existing because when we talk about the universe, it's our local presentation of space-time is the universe, our local presentation. Anything outside of that does not go into the bucket of eternal universes. That's just wrong. I'm really sorry, that's just wrong. And yeah, there's a lot of possible alternatives. I don't know which is the correct one. I don't know. I'm not claiming to know. So I don't know why I would have to show proof of something that I do not claim knowledge of.
Now, I am not asking you to provide proof, but if you think that any of these alternative suggestions are a superior explanation to an eternal, powerful, intelligent creator, then I would like to know based on what you come to that conclusion.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I could give you a paper on Sean Carroll's child universes and sort of give you that one. It depends which one you're talking about. I honestly do not know what the origin of the universe is. So I'm not going to be able to give what I think it is because I honestly don't know. I don't know why you would sort of go, well, you've got to show this is the case, even though you're saying you don't know what it is that started the universe. I can give you plenty of papers on the Big Bang, but that's not the start of the universe. That's the start of the rapid expansion of the universe. So I don't know what you're after. Like what hypothesis would you like to look at? I can probably find you something on it, but I think you can look it up for yourself as well, Otangelo.
Okay, so would you also say that your I don't know is superior than to say most likely a powerful, eternal, intelligent creator is the best explanation for our existence, for the existence of the universe?
I think the I don't know is superior because there's absolutely no evidence for any actual cause, including that's not true. We do have mathematical evidence proposed for some of the theoretical universes, sort of multiverse. There's maths behind it. I think that that's sort of not taken that seriously anymore. But there's literally no evidence for a God. I don't know what you're sort of proposing as being evidence for a God, but where's the paper on God? Where's the maths for God? Where's anything for God aside from claims? So yeah, just about any explanation is superior, because all these explanations at least have some basis in the natural world and people studying it. Whereas I can't seem to get evidence of the God now, much less having done anything in the past.
Well, I would say that what we can observe around us leads us to the cause. And we know the signature of intelligence. We can make a distinction between what intelligence is capable of doing that we have never observed that non-intelligent mechanisms would be capable of doing as well. So I think this is a very important distinction. And if we see signs in the natural world that have the signature of intelligence, that we have never seen that non-intelligent mechanisms can instantiate these things, then we have a good positive evidential case for that eventually an intelligent creator was involved in creating such things. And you are saying, well, we have no evidence for a creator. So my question then would be, since God is a logical possibility, how would you, what would you expect to see or to observe to say, okay, I see this. It seems to me that an intelligence is a plausible explanation for that.
Okay, so that you made a big thing, a signature of intelligence. I don't think we really have seen in nature any, through natural processes, any signature of intelligence. I think that comes from minds that have then developed. A lot of people claim that the natural processes are this signature of intelligence, but they can't demonstrate it. And I want you to be able to demonstrate it, not just claim it is the case that say natural processes that build cells or do some other things are signatures of intelligence, because they're not. Nobody in the fields is claiming that is the case, and they're just natural processes of the body and its functionalities just going about naturally. Now, sort of saying, what was the second thing that you said? It was on God, I wish I took it down.
What I asked Mark is, what is the signature of intelligent action? Something that we know that intelligence is capable of doing, that we have never observed that the non-intelligent mechanisms are also capable of doing.
Can I simplify the question?
Mechanism?
Yeah, because I think what he's asking is, can you give me an example of something that only an intelligent mind can do and that natural processes cannot?
Right.
Would that be fair?
Yes.
I don't understand. I mean, intelligence is a natural process, but probably I would say abstraction would be a hallmark of intelligence.
Now, let me give you a practical example. I don't know if you will say that you recognize the example as something that is a signature of intelligence, but we can, in the second stage, come to that. If you see a blueprint to make a complex machine that has a specific function, you have no idea about how that blueprint with the instructions came to be. Would you say that it is most plausible that an intelligent cause was responsible to create that blueprint? Or do you think that natural processes would be equally a plausible explanation for that blueprint? And do we have actually evidence that natural causes can create blueprints to make machines with specific purposes or functions?
That's too vague. That's too vague, because you could say that the gravitational forces around the accretion disk behind a planet forming is a blueprint. And it's not. Like, a blueprint is a piece of paper or a substance that people have drawn. So you're sort of trying to apply human-made things to things in the natural world. And while we may use them as metaphor, saying, hey, the gravitational attraction at the beginnings of a solar system is the blueprint for it forming, it's not actually a blueprint. So no, that isn't something we see, that sort of natural things. But we don't see natural forces create aeroplanes, jet-fueled aeroplanes either. We don't see natural forces create wristwatches either. Like, it depends on how specific you're getting and how much of this analogy you're making between natural things. Do you see natural forces create timekeeping? Well, if you want to define the sun and the moon going around, you can define it that way. But at that point, you're really doing analogy rather than actual things that exist. You're just stretching a metaphor is what you're doing.
No, I was actually very specific, and I didn't ask about natural things or planets or whatever you just said. I asked specifically, if you suddenly have a blueprint in front of you, that blueprint contains very specific information to make a complex machine that has a specific function, with all the sizes, with the material specification, what materials that have to be used, where each part of that machine is specified, also how the parts have to be brought together in order to then, in the end, as a whole, to have that function. If you see a blueprint with all these specifications, and you have no clue about the cause, the origin of that blueprint, would you say that it is most plausible that someone with intelligence, an agency with intelligence, created that blueprint? Or do you think it is more plausible that natural, non-intelligent, unguided events created that blueprint?
So this is, maybe I should clarify a bit simpler, because you didn't seem to understand my last question. It depends if you mean a blueprint as in a human-made blueprint that I know is made by a human and drawn by a human, or whether you're referring to a blueprint as something that just exists in nature, like the gravitational forces acting upon accretion disks. If you're referring to that as a blueprint, no, I wouldn't assume that was created by an intelligent designer. I would assume that's all natural forces. But let me ask you a question, because you've asked a lot. How do you tell the difference between something designed and something occurring naturally?
Well, first of all, my example, I didn't bring it nature or things like that. I didn't bring human intelligence into my question. I just asked this. It is only specifically about intelligence. If you see a blueprint, as I described, to make a complex machine with a specific function, you have no clue about the cause or the origin that made that blueprint. Do you think that it is evidence that some kind or some form of intelligence had to be involved, which had foresight and purpose to make that machine with specific functions? Or do you think that random unguided events would probably be a more plausible explanation for the existence of that blueprint? It's just about that, not about nature.
No. Well, Angelo, I've already answered you, but I'll give an analogy by Matt Delahunty, because he makes a really good point about beaver dams, that you can sort of see, hey, there's a beaver dam. It looks designed, right? But how do you know that it's a beaver dam rather than just a natural collection of sticks piled up? Just like you're looking at a complex system that has an appearance of design, how do you know it was actually designed by something, or it wasn't the bottom-up accumulation of natural processes that formed that rather than being created? And what I'm telling you is we would have to investigate further and find out the actual origin of it. Find out if it was, in fact, the dam was made by beavers, or whether those things just naturally accumulated. We can't just say, hey, it looks like, therefore it is. And this is a problem that theists have all the time. They say, hey, it looks like a thing, So it has to be that thing. And that's a mistake. It's a non sequitur. It does not follow just because something looks like something. If that were the case, then if I see a mirage, that has to be water. And it's not. That is not something that we ought to do. It's not a good way to find the truth. So what I would say to you, if I had a blueprint in front of me and I'd say, hey, that's a blueprint, I would have to find out what it actually is. Was it a blueprint made by an intelligence? Was it a natural thing that occurred? Now, most blueprints, and what you're preying on, is that, hey, we immediately recognize an actual blueprint as made by a human. Absolutely, because we're familiar with blueprints. But we would have to investigate for something that isn't obviously man-made. We would have to investigate to see whether that is natural or designed by an intelligence. And so you have to show that it was designed by an intelligence, not just say, hey, it looks like, so I assume it is. Because if that were the logic you were using, you would have to assume that all mirages are in fact water. And that's a terrible way to evaluate things. Now, I want to go to my question, which is, how do you tell something designed by an intelligence as opposed to something not designed by an intelligence?
Well, my example was not about Piper
No,
dams.
Tangelo, I've answered a lot of your questions. Please answer mine. I'm asking a question. How do you differentiate something designed by an intelligence as opposed to something not designed by an intelligence?
Precisely the example which I am giving. The blueprint, which has the specifications to make a complex machine for specific
I'm not
functions.
talking about blueprints. I'm talking about your criteria, right? The criteria. So anything at all, like you have a cloth on the ground as opposed to some cotton or something. How do you differentiate when you look at the things around you, anything at all? How do you differentiate what has been designed from that which has not been designed?
Well, I would say that based on my personal experience as an intelligent person, I know that I am capable, I am as a professional machine designer. I do actually, as a profession, design blueprints of machines that have specific purposes. I know by my own experience that through my intelligence, I'm capable of actually instantiating such a blueprint. I have never seen any sort of event which not involved intelligence, which instantiated a blueprint to make complex machines for specific functions. So my question was not about Piper dams. My question was specifically in regards of blueprints to make complex machines for specific functions. And I would say this is an example where I know based on my background experience that intelligence can do it. And I know based on my background experience that unguided events cannot do it because I've never seen it happen.
Okay, so number one, you're begging the question. You're saying it's a blueprint when blueprints are designed by intelligences. So you're begging the question that it is designed up front. That's what you're doing. You're basically saying, show me, only blueprints are designed by intelligences, and you're equating something that is not actually a blueprint, something we call to describe it a blueprint, as an actual blueprint. So you're absolutely begging the question that it is designed up front. Your personal experience is not a criteria for evaluating what is designed and what is not. I asked for a criteria, and you basically said, well, I just know. Well, I completely reject that. Another person could disagree with you, and without a criteria for evaluating what is designed and what is not designed, you have nothing to actually give them as to your criteria. All you can say is, well, my personal experience differs with their personal experience, and that's all. So I don't know why I would listen to your personal experience, especially since I figure that you're talking about biological cells, and you don't even have a background in biology at all. Neither do I. That's why I refer to the experts. And none of the experts are sort of saying, hey, well, very few, maybe a couple of fringe people are saying, hey, this was designed. Most are, well, this has evidence of, did you understand the difference between top-down and bottom-up design?
Yes.
Yes. So bottom-up design is when you have disparate systems that are all brought together and they sort of have to work together, rather than what you're describing as a blueprint where somebody designs the entire thing from the top down and then implements it all at once. You understand that, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yep. So these show evidence of bottom-up accumulation, which can happen organically and naturally over time. We've seen that in other things. So I don't know why you would sort of say, hey, it's a blueprint, when there's no evidence of a top-down design in these biological systems.
Well, first of all, I've not talked at all about biological systems. I talked about man-made blueprint. You are criticizing that I am using a circular argument. I am actually not making any argument whatsoever. I am just saying that I know by my own experience that as an intelligent person and as a machine designer, I am capable of creating blueprints to make specific machines with specific functions. This is a fact. I can show it to you right now. I can take a piece of paper and then you tell me I want a machine for this and that purpose. I can put it here and then show it to you. Now, well, I can make a hypothesis.
Hold on 1 second. Hold on 1 second. Just 1 second. So this has got nothing to do with biological systems whatsoever.
No. You asked me about the discrimination between what can be discriminated as an intelligent-made artifact and not. And I am giving you an example and answering precisely your question.
Okay, so we know that blueprints are made by humans. Okay, so what blueprints are made by God?
We know that blueprints are made by intelligence. I didn't say humans for a specific reason. If we see a blueprint that we have no idea whatsoever who made that blueprint, and we have two competing hypotheses, one is that an intelligent person made that blueprint, and the other that random chance made the blueprint, I would say it is clear evidence that the blueprint was made by intelligence. That's how I make the discrimination. Okay.
No. Hold on 1 second. Not an intelligence, a human. Blueprints are made by humans. Like I've never seen an intelligent ape or dolphin make a blueprint. Okay, it's made by humans.
Okay, you can say it's made by human intelligence, but that's not the point. Because you asked me about making a differentiation
so what does this
between
have to
things that are made by intelligence and things that are not made by intelligence. So I'm trying to answer your question.
Tangelo, we're off subject into blueprints made by humans. What has this got to do with your question about the origin, naturalistic or otherwise origins of the universe? Or the world, as you call it, because again, I'm not sure what exactly you're referring to. Your terms are very vague in nature. So when you say we don't know where the world came from, I think you mean the universe. I'm not sure exactly what you're talking about. So let's focus in on what this has got to do with the origins of humans and the world around us, I guess, and the universe around us is what you're referring to.
Yeah, I think that if you want to have a clear distinction between intelligence made, which would be the God world, and not intelligence made, which would be the no God world, and we have clear parameters where we know the distinction between things that are intelligent made and things that are not intelligence made, I think I answered precisely your question. If I see a blueprint and I have no idea of the origin of that blueprint, to make a machine which has a specific purpose, I come to the conclusion it was made by intelligence. It is the more case-adequate explanation of the origin of that blueprint rather than unguided natural events.
Well, I agree. I agree that blueprints are made by humans. I agree.
Good. Okay, so we agree on that. I think this is
important. Well, I mean, I don't say intelligence. I've never seen an I don't know why you're not listening to me. I don't see dolphins producing blueprints. I don't see chimpanzees. They're intelligent, right? They are intelligent. I don't see any of them producing blueprints. Blueprints are produced by humans. They're a schematic that humans produce on paper. So,
Okay.
you know,
Okay, yes,
but I
we agree
want
on
you
that.
to tie it
Human
in with your
intelligence.
original question about the origin of the universe. Do we see a blueprint of the universe anywhere? Do I have a blueprint that was made by humans somewhere?
Well, I'm not referring to the universe, but I would like
And
to
what are
come
you
to the
referring
next
to?
question. So, yeah, so I think we both agree, Mark, that we have here a clear case of the distinction between something that was made by human intelligence, that
No,
we
we don't.
don't know, that we have no experience or knowledge whatsoever that non-intelligent mechanisms could instantiate, which is that blueprint we are talking about. Would you agree
So,
that non-intelligent mechanisms cannot produce a blueprint with the instructions
no.
to make a complex machine that has a specific function?
No, I think that you have not defined the criteria about intelligence made and things not made by intelligence. You have not answered that criteria. All you've said is, I rely on my personal experience, which I've said already, that's not enough for me. Because if I say, well, my personal experience says otherwise, you're done. You don't have anything to say because you haven't actually given a criteria of how you're differentiating between the two. You have not given that. All you've said is, I just know. Well, how? How do you know what's been made and what has not been made? What's natural process? How do you make that distinction?
Well, I mean, a blueprint is a piece of information. It is specified, complex information which defines or instructs how to make something. And when you have basically an unlimited number of possibilities, and you have to boil it down to something which is complex and very specific, then you have a huge sequence space, you have a huge number of possible outcomes. But when you need to have a very specific and complex outcome, then the chance to get that outcome by random events is basically infinitely small. And that means that random events are not a superior, but an infinitely less adequate explanation for that specific blueprint, which contains
No, you are
instructions
wrong.
to make a
Like,
machine.
you're wrong. You're wrong because a blueprint isn't, when we're talking about what an actual blueprint is, it's a drawing on paper of the schematics of something being designed. It's necessarily a drawing, right? If you want to use it as a metaphor and say, hey, the function that I went to, or the conference that I went to, we made a blueprint of, the way the company is going to go. If you want to use it as a metaphor, that's one thing, right? That's just a metaphor. You can just dismiss it because it's just a metaphor. It's just a way to describe something that is not the thing. When I say, hey, we made a blueprint of the direction of the company was going in the last meeting, it doesn't mean that you went in there with a piece of paper. Did he just drop out?
No, I did it.
Oh, okay. Well, it's just this thing of, no, I'm going to take a blueprint and basically equate the two. I still didn't get how you tell the difference between something designed and something not designed. Something designed by an intelligence and something not designed by an intelligence. So a blueprint is necessarily a piece of paper with a schematic of how something is going to be designed and engineered by humans. That is what a blueprint is. If you're talking about something else, because I agree that blueprints are only done by humans. That's all we've seen do blueprints is just humans. If you're applying it as a metaphor for something else, you can do that in order to try and describe it, but saying it has to have the same properties as an actual blueprint is a mistake, because you can't just use a metaphor and expect it to have all of the properties of the original. Because if that were the case, what it would have is been made of paper, be drawn in some way as a diagram. It would have all of these requirements to it. So I'm really sorry, Otangelo, but I don't know what you're talking about, and you haven't gotten to the point. So I don't understand how this ties in with the universe. So I don't even see a reason why we would continue to discuss it. Because, the question was, how do you explain the universe better than God? natural processes, because natural processes is all that we've seen. And then you've gone to this blueprint thing, which I don't even know why you're there, to be honest with you. Sorry, Joe, go ahead.
I just wanted to interrupt for 1 second. Otangelo, we've been going for about 2 hours here, and I feel like Mark has addressed your question, so I'm going to let you respond, and then after your response, we're going to kind of start to wrap things up here, okay? I just didn't want to. I've been trying not to interrupt, but go ahead and respond, Otangelo. Okay,
so why I came up with this example, Mark, and please do not interrupt me. I'll be quick, okay? I use this as an analogy, and I say if we have a clear distinction, and I think it is a distinction, we can even make a scientific hypothesis and say, I don't think that natural processes will be ever shown to create instructional blueprints which contain complex specified information to make a machine with specific purposes. It can be tested. It doesn't have to rely just on my experience, but it can be made a scientific test to demonstrate that it is possible or eventually not. Okay, so this could be a scientific hypothesis based on intelligent design. Now, if we see something very similar to a man-made blueprint in nature, then I understand that I would come to the same conclusion that intelligence is a better explanation for that phenomena encountered in nature rather than unguided natural events. And I'll quote here William Herschel. He says, if the analogy of two phenomena be very close and striking, while at the same time the cause of one is very obvious, it becomes scarcely possible to refuse to admit the action of an analogous cause in the other, tough not so obvious in itself. And my analogy is not related to the origin of the universe, Mark, but probably you are an experienced debater, and we have already talked about these things. I understand that the information stored in DNA is instructional. It is complex, specified, and it instructs. And it instructs. I would like to finish. I would like to finish. Please. Can I finish, please? I would like not to be interrupted. Then you answer.
You lied to me.
I've listened. No, I didn't. No, yes, I didn't lie to you. No, I did not. Why are you making false accusations now? And why are you interrupting? Wow. I've been patient, listening to all what you have said. I've not interrupted you once.
Sum it up, Otangelo, because I don't like people that lie to me. I really don't.
That I would not be interrupted, and you interrupt me. Why? Why are you not able to?
Because you lied to me, Otangelo.
No, I've not lied to you.
Please?
I've not talked about the analogy. I've not talked.
Okay, Otangelo, you're muted, so it's time to listen. You told me it had nothing to do with biology and nothing to do with organics. And then you mentioned DNA, which is exactly to do with biology. We could have cut to the chase if you just said, hey, yeah, this has got to do with the information in DNA. But you refused to do that and you couched it, which you lied about. It was to do with biology and it was to do with DNA. So you lied.
No, I did not lie because I did not come to that point yet. My point was just about answering your question about making a discrimination between how we can make a distinction between something that is designed and is not designed, and it had nothing to do with biology. At the moment I explained you that. So no, I didn't lie.
Said it had nothing to... No, Otangelo, just mute him for just get rid of it. Otangelo said specifically it had nothing to do with biology or organics. He said that. He said, no, it's got nothing to do with that. No, he lied. He lied because he knew that I knew what he was talking about, and he just went, no, I'll just lie about it.
Well, and to be honest, Otangelo is actually blocked from this channel and used a Sockif account to circumvent the moderation and to come and join and ask that question. So just being consistent with what we should do here. Otangelo has been blocked on that sock account as well just now.
Okay.
But I had no fear of letting him ask a question, but just so we're clear, that's not gonna be a common occurrence.
I just, we could have cut to the chase and started to talk about the difference between a blueprint and analogy for a blueprint that they're using when they're talking about DNA, right? We could cut to the chase. It's just like, why, if I know what you're talking about, why lie and say it's got nothing to do with that? Why can't we just go to that and have a conversation about that? I think that it's there's nothing wrong with me going, okay, are you talking about this thing? No. I've got no. And then he goes at the end, well, I hadn't brought that up yet.
Yeah.
Really? So you lie about what it's about, and because you haven't brought it up, you think you're not lying.
It was harmful to his argument then, but then when he needed it, it was, let's refer to this.
It was pivotal.
Yeah.
We could have just cut to that instead of this whole rigmarole going around in circles about the blueprint thing. Like, why can't we just cut to, hey, DNA has information stored in it? Yeah, it does.
Yeah.
So,
during that, though, we got a $2 super chat from Barnaby Wild. I missed the beginning, damn it. It's been a fun show so far, Barnaby. And Skeptic Spin, Justin over there, says, great show. Thank you so much. Appreciate both of your super chats. I think that this, because we refer to DNA as the blueprint for life, which I would say that's probably the most analogous thing we could use, because it does appear that way. Blueprints, though, are the word we use to describe it. An actual blueprint is a man-made thing, and we know that blueprints are man-made. So we're not saying it's an actual blueprint. We're saying that it just contains the information that for life.
Yes.
That's but that's why he wanted to dodge biology in the beginning, because then you explain that away pretty easily. But then wanted to bring it back up at the end. That was kind of hilarious.
And so if you want to make, and sort of talk about an analogy, and William Herschel is talking about, I think he lived like in the 1800s kind of thing. Like he's not some kind of expert on biology or anything. He's sort of like, when you have an analogy, you can basically treat them the same. But I don't think the analogy between a blueprint and sort of a genome is the strong analogy that you think it is. Like, I really don't think so.
No.
It sort of, the way that a blueprint changes is that you have somebody rubbing stuff out and putting more information in, like they want to change something. The way that a genome changes is simply recombination between the parents, and viruses can insert their own DNA in there. Like, it's not even analogous to how it changes. The analogies are not that similar. It's just the best way we can think about it. Like when we call DNA a code, and it's not a code like a computer code. Like, it has information stored in it that is instructional, but it's not a computer code. So this whole thing of, well, it's analogous, so it has all the same properties. No, that's not how analogy works. That is not how analogy works.
And it's analogous from that broad view. Once you go into what is a blueprint, what is DNA, you find that they're no longer analogous when you start to describe what each one of them is. So for sure. I think that
Otangelo, stop lying. If you want to talk about stuff in a cell, just admit that you wanted to talk about DNA in a cell, and don't play this like, well, I'm not talking about that yet. Seriously, what are you doing? Wow.
Is he arguing in chat? Because I don't know how he's doing that. Either way, if my mods are watching, somebody sees that account, block it. I did it through StreamYard, so it may not have blocked it on YouTube actually. And if not, that's fine. I'll do it after the stream, because I don't like circumventing moderation in order.
No, that's a bannable offense on mine as well. I think that most people, that's a bannable offense. But Otangelo, dishonest as usual. Seriously.
Yeah, I didn't mind with you. I didn't care to let you engage with the question though.
Thank you.
Just, yeah. But are you complimenting my hairline? Yeah, I've worked a long time on that. I'm here pretty soon. I'll have the Mark Reid.
Nice. And here's the reason why I was asking about how to differentiate between intelligently designed things and like the natural processes that he's talking about, because the reason why he wouldn't define any criteria is because he is basically saying, well, I just decide what's naturally produced and what's designed. He just decides himself, just saying, hey, I'll just make these things. The problem with his worldview is that there is no natural processes producing everything. Everything has been designed by an intelligent creator. Everything. So he cannot differentiate between natural processes and intelligent design. Everything's intelligently designed. So that's the problem there. And it's why he didn't want to go down that route and couldn't provide no criteria to differentiate between all of them, because he basically is presupposing that everything is designed from the start. So when he sort of goes down this, well, this doesn't happen in nature, nothing is in nature. Nothing has happened in nature. Everything is designed. So he can't actually differentiate between the two. And that's why he refuses to answer the question.
Peter, I'm going to let you come on to say hi, and then I'm going to wrap this up.
Hi. Yeah, I just wanted to hop on because I'd love to have a little chat with Mark after the show. That's why I said you can leave me backstage if you want to.
Okay. I'll do that.
Good
Don't
show.
worry, Peter will tell me off. Peter will tell me off for all my mistakes.
Good. I will. Okay. Since I'm here, I'm going to tell you off. Okay. So, DNA is not analogous to a blueprint because the blueprint doesn't interact with the building it creates. It's just there. Other people look at it and then create. So, calling DNA a blueprint, not a good analogy. That's my 2 cents. Put me backstage because I'm not going to shut up, Joe.
No. That's a really good comment. I really like that. I think
you can stay for the wrap up.
Okay. Oh, thanks.
Yeah.
Well, that's one of the things that really annoys me. Yeah, that really annoys me with Otangelo, because he's making false analogies and then tries to slip in things that aren't there.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree with Mark. That is a good. That is a good way to look at it, and I will admit that maybe even what I said about it being good from a broad view isn't really appropriate. So yeah, I agree with you, Peter. That's a great point.
Yeah, and it shuts down a lot of creationist arguments.
Yeah, sure, sure.
But I have to hand it to Mark, because a while back, I was a guest on this show, and we had some random guy come in called Otangelo. Remember what happened when I called him a liar, Joe?
Yeah.
He said he'd never talk to me ever again. Mark, you did something wrong, because you could have had this. You called him a liar, and he didn't tell you to.
I just don't know why you would sort of lie about your argument and where it's going.
It's inevitable when talking to Otangelo. You will catch him.
Yeah, I know,
on
but
lie.
It's not like the audience has a memory of a goldfish and won't remember when you said it had nothing to do with biology and then bring up DNA. No, I didn't lie. I just hadn't got there yet. Yeah, that's a lie, dude. That's what are you talking about? Otangelo, the thought processes baffle me, quite frankly.
And he never answered your question about making what is criteria are for designed and undesigned, because he doesn't have any, and he can't, because if his God is real, everything on this planet is designed. Every single grain of sand specifically is designed.
Where are the blueprints for the grains of sand?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sand DNA. That sounds like a cool project for Otangelo to find out.
It's been a while since I've talked to you, Peter. It's been a long while. It's been too long,
yes.
actually.
I mean, I think the whole globe thing has some merit to it, because you're awake when I'm asleep, and vice versa.
Yeah.
But that's why I wanted to hop on, because I get a chance to chat.
I'm always glad to see you hop on, Peter. I'm always happy to have you come in and add, because you always add something intriguing to the conversation. I love it.
Lately
I
I haven't done much.
that.
Sorry. So lately I haven't done much shows.
No, go ahead.
So I have been going over my own arguments, and I think I've found a few new things to touch on. I talked with Arn about a few, and he had at least two where he said, "Damn, I never thought of that in this way. I'm going to use that." So the blueprint thing was another one. I've never seen anyone counter the fact that they equate DNA with a blueprint, because it doesn't work.
Right. Yeah. Whenever you scrutinize that that analogy, it's not really all that fitting after all.
No.
It's just well, I mean, it just went into dishonesty. He didn't want to address the fact that Mark was already on top of where he was going with it, because it's a tired ass argument. So he nothing to do with biology, and then the moment that it fit his narrative, drag biology back into it, and that way he didn't have to address the things that Mark was going to point out about biology. So it was a dirty tactic to ask the question, I have to say. It was kind of a I do have to give it to him, though, because I don't think a lot of people would have caught what he did there. They would have just went on with it, and Mark was like, "No, wait a minute, you said you didn't want to talk about that."
Yeah, and he always does that. Something completely unrelated. I'm sorry to do that, but I just noticed Al Trucker's in the chat. Al's going through a very, very rough time. I don't know if anyone saw his video, so I want to do a shout out to Al, and hope he gets well soon, because not being able to breathe normally is horrific, and I know for a fact why.
Lots of love, Al. Yeah, hang in there,
mate. Definitely. Al joined us on an open panel the other day from his hospital bed, and while it was awesome to see you, Al, I hate that you're going through what you are, and I really do hope that you get better soon, buddy. We love having you around to interact with and stuff, and I hope that you get back on top of stuff so you can continue to be all the Al Trucker you can be.
Yep. Missing you on the panels, Al.
Yeah.
Better get back.
Yeah. So, real quick, I'm going to kind of wrap things up here. Mark, do you have any kind of stuff you want to talk about before we get out of here?
No, just Fridays, my Fridays, which is Thursday night, I'm going to be doing another Fundamentalist Fail. That's a weekly thing, so feel free to tune in. And for Debate Dissection on my Sunday or Saturday night, I'll be back on Ember's channel. And that's what I've got going on for the week. Don't forget to like and subscribe to the Kentucky Atheist. Definitely deserves it. It was a rough one today. We got a lot of incoming calls. It was fun. Thank you so much for having me on. I really do appreciate it. And thanks for the feedback, Peter. I actually appreciate that as well. And stuff like that is absolutely critical. Yeah, always different perspectives always give us different options and different ideas and things like that.
I love for Peter to show why that wasn't a good analogy. after I said it was. I love that. That's you corrected something that I held that was a bad position, really a bad way to explain it, and you gave details of why. Love that type of criticism.
It's a little bit of what Mark and I have always done. I mean, and even when we're live, if one of us comes up with a bad argument, the other one will call him out, and we'll talk about it and figure out what the best way to go about it is. So, and that's one of the things why I love Mark, because you're always, if you're going to give feedback, you're always going to get a positive response from Mark.
Right.
And he shuts me up when I step too far.
Yeah.
So, there's that.
Yeah. So I appreciate Mark Reid taking the time to come hang out with us and address some questions and stuff. And I had an excellent time doing the show. And I want to thank everybody that asked questions, even if you ran off like a whatever, such as Catholic traditionalists, as soon as you were pushed back on. But thanks for asking the question. It gives us a chance to address actual questions from believers in front of an audience of people that may or may not have some of the same questions. So it's helpful. The call-in feature, of course, I'm not doing right now. I'm having some computer problems and stuff, and I just don't think my computer is going to allow me to run call-in studio and do everything smoothly. I'm still working on an answer for that, short of buying a $200 mixer, but it looks like I'm probably going to have to either spend a lot of money on the computer or spend a lot of money on the mixer.
Anything I can help with? Anything I can help with, maybe?
We can look at it later if you want, Peter. But I don't think.
I'm always happy to help.
Yeah, we can take a look at it, but I don't think there's an easy answer for the hardware I'm running. But we can for sure look at it. I'm always down. Again, I'm always down for criticism and input. So yeah, definitely. But other than that, you can also check out Peter over on his channel. Gonna go for it. Isn't that the name?
That's it. So yeah, if all goes well, I'm going to be hosting two people this Thursday. We haven't figured out the time yet, so it might change. But yeah, I also host not debates but conversations, and one of my longtime friends, one of the first people who followed me back on Twitter is going to talk to a young Earth creationist, and he's a biology teacher, evolutionary biology teacher. So
Sweet.
That's going to be a good conversation and one I'm looking forward to. And then hopefully the week after that, we're going to have a good friend of mine, Christian Pike. So that's also going to be a good conversation, I think. And I'll be hosting that with my dear friend Professor Flynn from Canada. So
awesome.
Well,
do you have any questions for me, Peter?
Do you have any questions for you? Yeah. Can you do live streams at a time where even Europeans are able to come in and watch?
No. No. Anything else? No. Absolutely.
How have you been? And do you have any debates coming up? Because I always like to watch those.
I tried. There was one scheduled, but they never got back to the people. So no, I don't at the moment, unfortunately, which I really have to remedy. But no, not at the moment. That's okay. They'll come along. They'll be something.
Your reputation is getting ahead of you, I think.
No, I've got to throw one or two, and just do a terrible performance and be absolutely slaughtered just to get people interested again.
I don't know if that's the same for you, but it's getting harder and harder to get people, religious people or young Earth creationists for that matter, to come and have a conversation. And mostly I blame that. Yeah, and mostly I blame that because a lot of the conversations that are taking place are very hostile. And I think Mark is probably, I always said when I grow up, I want to be Mark Reid, because
You'll never grow up. What are you talking about?
No, I won't. I won't. Damn it.
What I love about you, Peter.
Don't tell everyone. But no, but he's always calm and cordial, and I haven't seen him get mad a lot. And when he does, then that's always justified, because it takes a long time to get Mark mad. And
yeah, it depends on what. I'm just human, you know. I just do my best. That's all. But thank you, Peter. I appreciate your kind words. I really do. It means a lot to me. Thank you.
I have taken a lot of clues from you in recent times, and it does help in a conversation if you just keep calm and keep cordial. I also think that's the only way to have conversations, because otherwise people are going to dig in their heels, and you're not going to have the conversation you want to have. And that's what I see happen a lot these days.
Maybe we can change that.
Yeah.
All right. Well, we're going to wrap up, and
okay. let's get out of here. So for sure, go check out these guys and subscribe if you're not. I'll be back Wednesday. Miss Robin will be back to join me for our politicality talk show. And I think Big Bad Mama is going to drop in and give us some of his thoughts on the subject as well. So catch us for that Wednesday. I'll do a live stream for members only Thursday.
Joe, you got a super chat come through.
I couldn't see it. Native Atheist, a $10 super chat. Good stream. Thank you so much, Native Atheist.
Thank you.
It's very much appreciated and very generous of you. But yeah, thanks to everybody that came and watched. Thanks to everyone that interacted. Very big thanks to Mark Reid for coming and doing it. And have a great one, everybody. Good night.